I have confirmed with staff that we have quorum, so I'm going to call the Strathcona Regional District Board meeting to order for September 16th. If I can get somebody to please move. Thank you, Director Lee has moved the public agenda with brief, okay, regarding the library. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We can do that. And we'll do that under, I believe we have that in our minutes from the last meeting, so we could do that under business arising from minutes. Is that correct, Mr. Yates?
This would be a new issue, though.
A new issue?
Yeah, it's
okay,
not
we'll
arising from minutes.
We'll do it under new business then. Okay. Yeah. So I have it moved with an amendment, and I've had it seconded. Seeing nothing else, I'll call the question on the agenda as amended. Is there anyone in opposition?
Sorry, trying to find my unmute. I do just have, oh, sorry, that's business arising. Apologies.
Okay, thank you. So I have no petitions and delegations. Can I get somebody to move the minutes from August 19th, please? Moved by Director Kerr, seconded by Director Unger. Is there any errors or omissions in those minutes? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Is there anyone opposed?
I would do it again with the baby.
I'm going to remind everybody to please mute if you are if you're not speaking, so we don't get the background noise. Thank you. I have nobody in opposition, so I will call those minutes carried. Business arising from minutes.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Director
thank you. Just trying to bring up the item here. When the board at our last meeting set public hearing delegations for public hearings last week, today, and next month, there were the public hearing delegations said the public hearing delegated to the electoral area directors, with which is the standard language that the board has used for the whole time I've been in office, which means all 4 directors. Director Abram then asked the question, well, hold on, what about the censure? Don't we exclude Director Anderson? Our CAO rebutted, no, the direction has certainly been clear. But in my censure response, I made it really clear that the censure can't fetter a future board's ability to make decisions. So I contacted the corporate officer and I asked for clarification, because it seems to my reading that it is indeed all 4 electoral area directors that were delegated, when in fact perhaps the intent of the board was to delegate only 3. Out of deference, I did not attend the public hearing last week. The only response I got from our corporate officer was that he thought, listening to the recording, that the intent of the board was to exclude me, but I would submit that the wording of such was not that case. So there's a public hearing tonight, and I would just ask clarity of the board, what was the intent? And if the intent was to have all 4 rural area directors delegated, then I will attend tonight's public hearings. If the intent was otherwise, I would ask that the board reconsider or amend that resolution to make it clear, excluding me, at which point I will not attend tonight. Thank you. And so that's resolution. That's resolutions 60620 and 60720, I believe, were the only 2.
Okay, so the resolution from my perspective was relatively clear, but if you have ambiguity, I will speak to what I believe the intent of that resolution was, and that is that 3 of the directors were to attend, and that this has actually been discussed ad nauseum, actually, and we've gone over this time and time again. should you require amendment to that motion, I will consider it as a notice of motion for next meeting, knowing, of course, that we can put the board on notice at this particular time and that Mr. Yates has that motion in his hands prior to the publication of the next agenda. But at this point, the intent of the board, under my understanding, is that you were not to attend. So.
And it is my expectation that that's what the board intended. And in previous public hearing delegations, since my censure, the board has been really clear to delegate only reps from area A, C, and D. That is not what happened last time. So if you require a notice of motion, then I believe that I'm legally expected to show up at the public hearing tonight. So just unless the board wants to clarify, I would be there tonight.
Okay, I'm going to go to staff, but I do believe the intent of the motion was relatively clear. I don't believe that there's anybody else on the board that has any qualms on what this looks like, but I will go to staff.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just so clarity to a couple comments on Director Anderson. There is no legal obligation for Director Anderson to go. There's in fact no obligation for us to appoint directors to public hearings. They don't have to attend. So I made it clear during the discussion that there was a censure motion and that Director Anderson was excluded from public hearings outside Area B. I made that declaration clear before she voted on the matter. And just to give the board some assurance about Director Anderson's comments about fettering future boards, the board's motion on censure did not fetter the future boards. That censure motion is expires at the end of this term in 2022. So we didn't pass a motion that would fetter that board. That's a motion that the board has made for this board. So there's no fear that we're fettering any future decisions. And again, it was clear, I made it clear to the board when we discussed attendance on there that we would not specifically exclude Director Anderson from every public hearing. It was clear that the board censure motion excluded her from all public hearings outside Area B until the end of the board's term.
So I would just ask, then why the wording of the public hearing delegations in the last year has been specific and now it is more general. I think it is confusing.
It's semantics, I think.
Okay, thank you very much. Unless any other board member has anything different than what I have said, I will move forward. Seeing none, thank you very much. Notices of motion. Director Anderson, did you wish to put in a notice of motion?
So that the board could deliberate in a few weeks what happens tonight. Not terribly useful.
Okay, thank you. Move forward then on to chair's reports. I just have a couple of things. First off, I got a wonderful letter from Karma Dreichel from Fortis saying they're upset and sad that we aren't getting together, but they have sent us all our Fortis socks that we would normally get when we were at UBCM, and I have put all of those beautiful Fortis polka dotted socks in your cubbies in the boardroom. So when you're in, please feel free to pick them up, and I will write a letter to Carmen thanking her very much. Myself, Vice Chair Unger, Director Abram, and Director Adams and our CAO have been on 2 of the ministry calls this week. First one with Minister Kang, Citizen Services, where we talked extensively and updated Minister Kang on our Connected Coast project and some of the issues that we are going to be facing that we may need some assistance with in the future in regards to permitting on sites and whatnot. The second one with Minister Robinson, and our topics were the Strathcona Gardens, which Director Adams spoke to, Connected Coast again, where we updated her on where we were. I spoke to that, and then also Director Abrams spoke about his Surge Narrows Marine Infrastructure Development Plan. So all of those have gone off very well. Which is great, and Minister Robinson did share a little bit of information with us, as we are now in receipt of the Area D planning grant of $10,000, which is absolutely fantastic. And I'm sure Director Lee is 2 thumbs up in getting that grant, which is great.
May I ask what it's for?
Oh,
Planning for what?
Water meters.
water meters.
Oh,
Yeah.
how much did we get?
$10,000 per planning grant.
So that'll go towards making an application for 2 million.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So that's great. And lastly, I just needed to give the board a heads up. On September 28th, the North Island 911 is having their strategic planning. Our reps for that are Director Moglove and the alternate is Director Adams, both of which are going to be tied up doing October 26th, with the financial planning for the city. So Director Unger has said that he can attend on that particular day, but I will need a motion from the board as he is not delegated or as a representative at this particular point. So I would be looking for a motion that would give him the authority to attend the strategic planning for North Island 911, which is
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Director Lee. Seconded?
Yeah.
By Director
Director
Abrams.
Abrams.
Thank you very much. And is there any discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call that carried. And finally, I just want to welcome our first visitor into our gallery, who is sitting there right now looking at all our screens and watching us from our gallery with his mask on and obeying all COVID-19 rules. And that is Mark from the Campbell River Mirror. Thank you very much for attending, Mark. That's all I have for my report. So if somebody could move my report.
So moved.
So moved.
Thank you, Director Lee, seconded by Director Kerr. And is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call that carried. On to committee reports. Thank you. If I can get somebody to move the draft minutes from the inaugural meeting of the Committee of the Whole. Director Kerr moved, seconded by Director Lee. Thank you very much. And is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Is there anyone in opposition? Seeing no opposition to the minutes, I will call them carried. I have no extra territorial reports. On to staff reports, please. The review of the Regional District of Mount Waddington's interim solid waste management plan. If I can get somebody to move receipt. Moved by Director Colburn, seconded by Director Wally, and I have to staff and then to Director Cornfield.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is just for information. Obviously, we have the Comox waste management function that looks after this, but we referred on it. What we staff tried to do was give some background information on the solid waste management plan, and we're free to answer any questions.
Okay. Director Cornfield.
Muted button off.
There you go.
Thank you, Chair. First off, do we need a motion to refer to the Solid Waste Board?
No, we've confirmed that Mount Waddington has sent it to Comox, so it should appear at some point on the solid waste board. However, the deadline for comments was late August. So.
Oh, okay. I just had 3 quick comments that may be worth considering at our next solid waste meeting. When I went through the solid waste plan, they talk about developing a fund to seed local circular economy projects. Setting that up at Mount Waddington, which I thought was a good idea. You know, a fund if everybody contributes to it, but provide seed funding to local groups. Also, the food waste diversion strategy, which echoes back onto the recycling conference of 2019, where a lot of food is stamped best before, but it is still quite usable, and partnerships with some of the major food companies like retailers like Save-On and others take their product off the shelf early. It is still good, but the number of meals that they are able to provide works wonders. So I thought that was another good program worth pursuing. And one of their principles there is cost recovery and fairness strategy, which is something that perhaps we could have some discussion at the next solid waste board. So those are the three takeaways that I had.
Thank you very much, Director Cornfield. I think staff has got that, and we can certainly talk about it at the Comox Valley Regional District or Solid Waste Management. Thank you. Is there any other comments on the Mount Waddington Solid Waste Management Plan? Seeing none, I will call the question on receipt. Is there anyone in opposition? Seeing no opposition, I'll call that carried. On to staff reports number 2, the 2021 proposed finance planning timeline. For receipt, please. Moved by Director Wally, seconded by Director Kerr, and through to staff, please.
So, I can speak. Yeah, the report proposes a possible timeline for the upcoming budget deliberations. We based it off the dates that we established during the last deliberations. We tried to move as much as we could to any of the established meeting dates where applicable. And yeah, we're trying to get the budget passed by March 31st deadline. And then hopefully with the COVID in the way of the world, things work out this year. Open to suggestions.
Thank you, Mr. Harmston. Is there any comments from directors? Seeing no comments, I'll call the question on receipt. Is anyone opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. If I can get somebody to move Part B, please. Director Lee and Director Unger. Thank you very much. We are on Part B of the proposed financial planning timeline. Is just back to staff for any further comment?
Nothing to add, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there any directors that have any comment? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Is there anyone opposed? Seeing no opposition, I'll call that carried. On to bylaws. Number 1, bylaw number 400, the electoral area D cannabis regulation. That's moved by Director Lee and seconded by Director Unger. Thank you very much. And through to staff on receipt, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nothing to add on the bylaw.
Okay, Director Lee, did you have anything that you would like to add? You're muted, Director Lee.
I just wanted to say that the bylaw, the intent to waive the bylaw and put it up for adoption was well advertised in the local papers with a half-page, I think, color ad, and we received no comments or no input on this regulation. So I think we're safe to say that we can go ahead.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. So on receipt, this is all directors. I'll call the question. Is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that carries. On to Part B, Director Lee.
Move that bylaw 400 be given third reading.
Okay, Seconded by Director Adams. Thank you very much. And is there any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, this is for all electoral areas only. I'll call the question. Is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. And on to Part C, Director Lee.
And I move that that bylaw 400 Amendment 59 be reconsidered, finally passed and adopted.
And seconded by Director Colburn. Thank you very much. And is there any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, this is all electoral areas only. Is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. On to number 2, bylaw 402, Quadra Island Legion permissive tax exemption, moved by Director Abram, seconded by Director Colburn. Thank you very much, and through to staff, please.
Nothing to add, Madam Chair.
Okay, Director Abram, did you wish to speak to this motion?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that the legions nationwide are having a really hard time keeping their places open. And it's been my honor every year to give a permissive tax exemption to this legion on Quadra Island. They do wonderful work for the community and have donated incredible amounts of money, small amounts at a time, but over quite a few different groups that need money, people that don't usually have the ability to apply for things. So it feels great to be able to give them a tax exemption on their recreational portion. It only amounts to just over $818, I believe, but it's a start. It's a help, and I would appreciate your support.
Thank you very much. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Is anyone opposed? Seeing no opposition, I'll call receipt carried. On to Part B, Director Abram.
So moved for Part B, that bylaw being to provide an exemption from taxation for a specified real property located on Quadra Island be now introduced and read a first time.
Thank you. Seconded by Director Adams. Thank you very much. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Is there anyone opposed? Seeing no opposition, I'll call that carried. To Part C, Director Abram.
That the rules be suspended and bylaw number 402 be given second and third readings.
Okay, seconded by Director Colburn. Thank you very much. Is there discussion? No discussion. I'll call the question. Is there anyone opposed? Seeing no opposition, I'll call that carried. And finally, Director Abram, on to Part D.
Okay, and that bylaw number 402 being Royal Canadian Legion property tax exemption, bylaw 2021 be now reconsidered, finally passed and adopted.
And seconded by Director Wally. Thank you. And final discussion. Seeing none, I'll call the question. Is there anyone opposed? Seeing no opposition, I'll call that carried. On to Part O, which is our correspondence. If I can get somebody to move the correspondence for 2019 Community Energy Preparedness Fund. Moved by Director Colburn, seconded by Director Unger. And is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, I will call the question. Is there anyone opposed? Seeing no opposition, I will call that carried. I do not have any members' reports, more management reports. Under new business, Director Lee, please, regarding the Vancouver Island Regional Library.
Thank you so much. During the lunch break between Electoral Area Services and now, I received a press release from our communications manager at VIRL announcing the $14 million new library for Campbell River. So congratulations, Campbell River. We're moving ahead on that project. As long as the board continues to maintain its support for the financial plan going forward to 2022. On Saturday, and so I'm very much in support of the new library, and I'm really excited about what is in the press release and what we can look forward to as far as library services for Campbell River in the region. VRO board will be meeting Saturday to consider the 2021 to 2025 budget and financial plan. Our executive committee has met all summer to consider budget options with a view to trying to reduce budget increases as much as we can in consideration of the taxpayers' ability to pay through this COVID crisis. The current recommendation is a very modest amount, an increase of 1.87% over last year, which is below the 2% cost of living, which is very much affecting our overall costs for wages and benefits and fixed costs for construction and whatnot. So the board will have to make a decision on whether they endorse what kind of budget they endorse on Saturday. But rest assured that our executive committee has worked tirelessly all summer and have considered all the options. And I think we've got the very best 5-year financial plan we could have. So on those two items, just need receipt of them.
Thank you very much. If I can get somebody to move receipt of Director Lee, Director Kerr, and seconded by Director Colburn. Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Director Lee. I think that's, I'm getting in the chat here some woo-hoos from, and some thank yous to you from the Campbell River City Councilors. So
thank you. Yeah,
so,
well, I'm really looking forward to that new library myself. I love the libraries, and Campbell River's way overdue for a bigger, better facility.
thank you. So I'm just going to call the question on your report. Is there anyone in opposition? Seeing none. Just quickly before we move into closed session, I just want to say a couple of things. Number one, everybody should have just received an email from Ms. Watson to go into the next meeting, which is our regular in-camera session. So please make sure you sign out of this and go into the next meeting. And I was remiss in my opening remarks and just wanted to add that while we were talking to all the ministry people this last couple of days, I forgot I needed to thank staff for the wonderful materials they gave us to go into those meetings to have us all prepared. Ms. Popoff, Ms. Watson, Mr. Leach, Mr. Yates, thank you very much for putting all those together so that we were as prepared as what we could be. So thank you very much. If I can get somebody to move receipt of CAO's report for closed session, please.
So moved.
Director Colburn, Director Unger, is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, I'll get somebody to move that the closed meeting be held in following termination to the public meeting to consider matters deemed to fall within the parameters of subsection 91E, F, G, and O, and 92B of the Community Charter. Moved by Director Lee, seconded by Director Colburn. Thank you very much. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Is there anyone opposed? Seeing no opposition, I'll call that carried and we move to termination. Like I said, please sign out of this meeting and into the new invitation that Ms. Watson has just sent you. So I will see everybody in a couple of minutes.